Hey, this is James from Cinemassacre, and you're listening to Discography Discussion.
And if you believe the Psycho Man is in fact selling his soul, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. Thank you for listening. Tonight, we present our conversation with James Rolfe of Cinemassacre. James took some time to talk to us about the originators of heavy metal, Black Sabbath. We hope you enjoy it.
Thought a Sabbath episode would be really cool. We typically try to talk about bands from beginning to end, but I'm not going to lie to you. I while being very familiar with Sabbath, I noticed whenever we were prepping up for the show that there was like 5 or 6 albums that I just never heard or anything. So
let me guess, are they the Tony Martin albums?
Yeah, the Tony Martin albums. There's a couple too that were just like Tony Iommi, basically solo projects. And
yeah, it's confusing because the first collaboration with Glenn Hughes was actually released as Black Sabbath, even though he wanted it to be a solo project. He wanted just be called Tony Iommi.
Right.
They call it Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi.
Right, which is kind of weird.
The next 2 times he collaborated with him, they were both released as Iommi. So there's a very blurry line of when it's Sabbath and when it's Iommi.
Right. Yeah, so we'll definitely get into that. We haven't started rolling yet or anything, so we're
Yeah, I know that could have probably been in the podcast. Once I get started, I just can't shut up. So
that's cool, man. That's what we want.
Well, let me ask you this, James. Since when I read the email from you, that you said that Black Sabbath was your favorite band.
Mm-hmm.
This is the question that I've started asking our guests. What are your qualifications for metal? Why is Black Sabbath your favorite band?
What is it about Black Sabbath? I guess just the imagination that, the lyrics provoke a lot of imagination. I think a lot of it's the sound of Tony's guitar. I just really love that sound that he got. There's nobody else that, has that, like a lot of, guitar players, they have their own distinct sound,
So are you a musician?
My favorite. Oh, what's up?
Are you a musician?
A little bit. I play guitar, drums, and bass, and I do it because I think playing instruments kind of helps my appreciation of music.
Right.
It makes it even more enjoyable when I listen to music and I have an idea what they're doing. But I've never actually played in any kind of real serious music project or anything like that.
I love it. I love it every time somebody says, "Yeah, I play a little bit. I play drums, bass, and I tried playing guitar. I tried playing guitar. Oh my god, years and years and years ago. And I think the best I could do, I could play Iron Man on guitar and stuff like that. But it never worked for me. I just decided that was not.
Yeah, you decided you're much better at singing.
I guess I'm not really that good of a singer either.
Oh, you're a hell of a screamer.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do?
Sing. I can't sing.
Yeah, I can't either, man. It's not a big deal.
It's better in my resume. I'm violin, viola, and cello. So I'm Mr. Nerdy Classical guy over here in the corner.
Yeah, and Joe plays everything pretty much.
Whatever you need, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was just weird. I was watching the other night. We did, or not the other night. It was like a month ago. We were. I was watching the. I was watching your video on the Mandela effect, and because that's something I'm real obsessed with myself. Ever since I had kids and we started reading those stupid Berenstain Bears books. And,
say it right.
Yeah, and
well, now I can say Mandela right finally. So.
Oh yeah.
This is episode 14 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening and for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Google Play, We are on iTunes, we are on Stitcher, we are on TuneIn Radio. So if you have an Amazon Echo product, you can say to it, Alexa, play the latest episode of Discography Discussion, and she will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Please like, favorite, and subscribe to us. We love hearing from you guys, and we appreciate everything you do. If you're not a patron, you can support everything we do with this podcast at patreon.com/discussmetal. Our guest this evening is James Rolfe, and you can find everything he does at cinemassacre.com.
I was watching it by myself. We had just got done recording an episode, and I just wasn't really paying attention. And I looked behind you on your DVD shelf, and I was like, Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath. And I was just like,
oh, is it in that video?
Yeah, like in the DVDs behind it. And I was like, well, I'm just going to shoot off an email and see if he wants to talk about Black Sabbath, because clearly he enjoys watching it. So
yeah, my CDs, it's like it's ridiculous, because it's just like every like reissue of every album. It's like the like they put out those ones. I don't know if you heard them, but they're really cool. They put out those, what are they called? Like, I'm not gonna say special editions, but whatever the word is for albums, I forget, but they have like outtakes, all these different like alternate versions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Heard very little of that, but I know they did.
And that's cool though, because like as a fan, like you've already absorbed everything. At this point, if you're a diehard fan of a band, you've already absorbed literally everything the band has to offer. So to hear alternate versions and outtakes and stuff, it's just, to me, it's very cool. Like, I can't get enough of that stuff.
I mean, it's why we like live stuff. We want to hear it unique.
Yeah. And
again, but different.
Yeah.
I don't like when I go to a concert, I don't necessarily want to hear them sound exactly like the album. I want them to, jam a little, have a little fun with it, put a spin on it. If I wanted to hear the album, I'd go home and put it on.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too, hearing like extended versions of songs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what's your favorite Sabbath song, James?
Oh, that's tough. I think I'm going to go with Into the Void.
Into the Void.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's on an awesome album. That's my favorite album, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Children of the Grave for me, so I'm...
Oh, nice.
Oh, man. Unbelievable.
Cool.
I guess I'm old school. My favorite is still Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath off the self-titled album Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
That's called the easy answer.
Well, it is the easy answer, but dude, seriously, I mean, if you listen to that song, it starts off creepy as hell and just builds and builds. And Ozzy sounds like he might be drunk while he's singing it, but
might be.
Yeah, might be. I don't know. But it's terrifying. Like, especially if you're listening to it in the dark or something, it's like, oh my God, you hear the rain pouring in the background, and it just starts off with this real slow, sludgy riff, and then like you get about 2.5, 3 minutes into the song, and suddenly it speeds up, and you're like, what the hell's going on? And he's like talking about running from the devil and stuff, and you're like, holy shit! I'm listening to a horror movie, and and just the guitar solo at the end of that, and just how it kind of breaks down at the end is just never heard anything like it from that era.
I can't imagine what it would have been like hearing that in 1970.
It scared the crap out of people is what it did.
Yeah.
That's like right up my dad's alley, and he's like, no, man, I didn't. That stuff freaked the shit out of me. He's like, that just wasn't for him. He's like, give me some more pure Prairie League. And I'm like, oh, Dad, come on.
And from what they say, it was like practically a live album that they just did it all in like one take.
Yeah, like those first few albums, they just like straight up powered through.
Yeah, it sounds like it too. I mean, not like it sounds shitty or anything, but like it sounds like...
No, they didn't. Yeah, they were like in there, they did their business, and they were done.
Right.
I mean, it really was, what is it? I think it's Master Reality. I mean, it's the one that we were both talking about earlier, that they actually, kind of went to finishing school. I mean, they kept on doing take after take after take, and then they started, experimenting a bunch more, and, you could tell, I mean, their sound changed a lot.
Yeah, that was the first one where Tony tune the guitars down.
Yeah, because it was easier on his fingers.
Making it easier for him to play, right? Yeah.
And then he did something where like he took off, because I always used to think, well, like to get a thicker sound, wouldn't you need thicker strings? But apparently his strings were thinner. So he moved all the strings down on the guitar, I guess. Yeah, so basically he had the E, A, D, G, B. So like I guess the B and the E string were gone because he moved all the thinner strings down, and then he used banjo strings and replaced those two.
Really?
And then afterwards they invented lighter gauge strings.
That is some very cool knowledge.
Well,
That's very cool.
Yeah, I did not know that.
That's awesome.
I know in the VH1 Behind the Music, he talked about when he cut his fingers off at the last day of work. So he had created his own prosthetic with leather and bottle caps, and he talked about tuning down because obviously it reduces the tension. It makes it easier on your hands. But then those first albums, he's always in standard, so it always made me wonder, like, okay, so what else was he doing? But then I didn't know that about the banjo strings.
Yeah.
Just taking the tension off, but I guess that would work.
Uh-huh. And those when he made his own like prosthetic fingers out of like rubber, and then he put like some leather over it that he took from a leather jacket, and every once in a while it would wear out so much he'd have to replace the leather. So he had that same leather jacket all those decades and was still taking pieces from it until it was all gone.
No kidding.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's rough, though. I can't imagine being able to play like technically proficient, with a prosthetic finger. I mean, it's kind of like if you pick up one of those reachers, that you could buy at the store for reaching stuff that's far away. Like being accurate with that is, ridiculous. I can imagine something as technical as guitar playing, that it would be nearly impossible to to really hit the notes that you want to hit. But I mean, clearly for him it was rock solid. He clearly didn't have any issue with it, or maybe he did, but you don't hear that. You don't hear that on the records at all.
I think it's cool that he took something that most people would view as a detriment, and he turned it into a signature. I mean, it's awesome that he's actually able to take something that everybody else views as a weakness and says, no, I'm going to make this work, and I'm going to make it better than everybody else. Yeah, and everybody's going to be jealous of me, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, who that picks up a guitar now doesn't try to sound like Tony Iommi? Not very many people. If you want to play metal, kids, you gotta
go to the beginning.
You gotta go back and listen to Sabbath.
Absolutely.
Which is absolutely where I was at as a kid learning guitar. I wanted to play Iron Man, and then once I figured out how to play it, I was like, I guess bored after that.
Oh, you mean Iron Man by the Cardigans?
That's not.
That's not it, Jeff.
That's not it, Jeff. Come on, man.
Yeah, that was one of mine too. That I, one of the first ones I played.
Yeah, it's surprisingly easy, but I don't know how easy it is to play with prosthetic fingers either.
Yeah.
In my head, all I see is in our modern day America, I hear, Mr. Iommi, it's going to cost this much money. I have these bottle caps and this leather jacket. I'm going to make my own fingers.
Right. Yeah, fuck you guys. I'm just going to do my thing over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so with Black Sabbath, I guess one of the biggest questions I had when I was drafting that email was when I was talking about the first album sounding like a horror movie. So as far as being a Black Sabbath fan, I mean, has it been like a lifetime thing for you, like from a very young age or a more recent?
It's probably about half my life now.
Okay.
So I didn't get into music until I listened to music when I was a little kid and stuff. I had all kinds of records and everything. But then I went through a period in the 90s where I don't know, like nothing was connecting with me. I just wasn't really into like the whole grunge movement and everything.
Right.
I've gone back in retrospect, and I like a lot of that stuff now. But back then, I just wasn't really feeling the whole music scene. And then in the late 90s, I finally started connecting with metal, and that was really my musical awakening. So that's when I discovered Sabbath and Metallica.
Right.
And strangely, a lot of those bands were reuniting around that time. There was sort of like a reemergence of metal.
Right.
Sabbath reunited for the Ozfest tours, and then eventually Priest and Maiden got their lead singers back.
Right, yeah. Yeah, there was a weird
Yeah.
period there where you had somebody else singing for Judas Priest and somebody
Tim
else
the
singing
Ripper
for Iron
Owens
Man.
is his name.
Yeah, he was good.
Hey, I like
you know?
Yeah.
I liked the Ripper.
But it's
Yeah,
one
I
of
do
those
too.
things. It's like
Me too.
I don't know. It's just I'm an original vocalist kind of guy. I always feel like if you if you change vocalist, you should change the band name.
Well, that's kind of what
You're fundamentalist there, Dan.
the challenge that Sabbath had in the middle. The only thing
So
that
should
got
they have, with Paul Di'Anno and Maiden, should they change it then, or
Yeah, no, I know, man. It's
tough.
it's like
Yeah,
any
it's a tough
statement. It's
call.
hypocritical, because we're talking about Black Sabbath. I mean, how many vocalists has Black Sabbath had?
Yeah.
But they get a pass because they're classic or whatever.
Yeah, and Deep Purple too.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Do you remember the first Black Sabbath that you heard? Like when you actually knew you were listening to Sabbath? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably Iron Man, and it started as a prank because one of my friends, he like went through a phase where he hated that song for some reason. It was just one of those weird things where it's just
It's like somebody
no
else I know.
particular reason, but he was like annoyed by it, and it was like one of our, like your first trip to the mall when you have your license, your driving license, and you don't have your parents around you and everything, and we were just like hanging out at the mall, and then one of my friends, who's just this is just his personality, he he just went and bought the CD at the CD store there without us knowing. And then he was like, "Hey, give me the keys. I'll start up the car." And he goes to his friend's car, puts in the CD, and starts blasting it out of the parking lot. And then, and the other guy, he was not happy about it. But then afterwards, that song always left an impression on me. And I was like, "Hey, what's that CD? Can I borrow that? I want to hear the rest of that." And then I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." And then I think after Paranoid, I went to Master Reality. And kind of did like eventually over the course of years, did like the first 5 or 6 Ozzy albums, and then I skipped ahead to Dio for a little bit, Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules.
Yeah.
I'm
then just
a
started
bit of a
jumping
fan.
around. Yeah,
I love Dio. I can't help myself.
yeah.
Yeah, that was
Go right ahead. I'm sorry. I kinda
sorry.
interrupted you.
We're not great about not interrupting each other. We
Well, who is your favorite vocalist? Because you mentioned jumping forward to Ronnie, and I know that's for a lot of people. The question is always Ozzy or Dio. It's like, but
Yeah.
guys, they had more vocalists than that.
Yeah. I mean, what the way I compare it is, I compare it to Star Trek, if this makes any sense, is that you have the original Star Trek series and then you have the Next Generation, and everybody knows Captain Kirk. Like he's the captain. He's the one that, is the most classic. But nobody actually says like, "Oh, William Shatner's the best actor." Like he has his own distinct style of acting, and like nobody else acts like him. And that's what you love about him. But then Patrick Stewart, he's more classically trained, and like it's basically like Dio. He's really a better singer, but still you can't top the classic singer for some reason. So for that reason, I got to go Ozzy. But the way, like if I was really just to look at it completely objectively, like Ozzy sings along with the riff a lot, and then Dio sort of like, works into it in different ways. So, it's really like there's a conflict there, it's
Sure.
tough to answer.
So is it an accident then that most people, when they think Black Sabbath, they immediately jump to the Ozzy songs? It's like those are the ones they know, or those are the ones that have been shoved down their throats so much?
Yeah, I guess it's just those are the ones that made the biggest impression, because I guess a lot of it had to do with how much was going on in the 80s. Like I think once you had Van Halen and Motley Crue and all these bands that were just exploding, it was kind of hard, I think, for people to keep up with Black Sabbath, especially that Ozzy had his own career, and Ozzy's career seemed to overshadow Sabbath a lot. He had more of a radio-friendly sound.
Right. There's just a lot more competition. Early Sabbath was pioneers, and 80s Sabbath is, everybody's already heard them and emulating them and taking it and twisting it into their own thing, and then you have competition.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was playing metal in the 80s, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like you go back to the Ozzy era and you're like early 70s. Nobody else was like really playing metal, at least not that sounded like that, you know?
Right.
I'd say Led Zeppelin maybe comes close, but, you know.
They were still sort of their own separate, like you're either following Zeppelin or Sabbath mainly.
Right, yeah.
And they're,
Again, just to kind of go back to the whole horror thing, I guess the question I was asking earlier that I just couldn't spit out was it maybe the horror element? And I don't even know if you hear the horror element. It's just something I focus on when I listen to it. But if I always wondered, with as much as you talk about horror movies, if the two had anything to do with each other, you know, did your love of horror attract you to stuff like Black Sabbath, or was it the other way around?
Oh, it probably had a big part of it. A lot of it was also, I got into Metallica first, and they would always cite Black Sabbath as being a big influence, as did many other bands.
Right.
I was into Rob Zombie a lot at that time, and he would cover as White Zombie. They covered Black Sabbath songs sometimes, and so I was like, oh, what is this Black Sabbath? What's this all about? And I think I saw Ozzy on Howard Stern. It was actually, I saw him. Yeah, it was like one of his TV things, you know?
Right.
So, and then I didn't know what he played or anything. I assumed he was the guitar player or something. And then when I realized he was the singer, I'm like, wait, there's no way this guy's the singer. This is impossible. And I'm like, I have to hear this band and figure out what this is all about. But yeah, the horror thing was there too, because the first, the band was named after the Boris Karloff movie.
Right.
So I knew about that connect. That's actually kind of what got me interested in White Zombie also, because they were named after a horror movie.
Yeah,
maybe
that
they
was Bela Lugosi, right?
Black, white. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Since you mentioned Ozzy, were you a fan of the new album that they did back in 2013, I think?
Oh, yeah, the 13 album.
Yeah.
I waited, ever since I got into Sabbath, I've been waiting for that album. And it was one of those things where there were so many false starts. Like, oh, yeah, it's going to happen now. And then it wouldn't. It just fizzled out. Then there was a lawsuit with Tony and Ozzy for a while, and it was like, okay, this isn't happening. And then out of nowhere, they just announced it and was like, wow, like, okay, like, we'll see how long this lasts.
Right.
And then it happened.
Yeah.
So before that, all we had was on the reunion record, there was Psycho Man, and I think I'm going insane. Like, I
Selling My Soul, yeah.
I know I had heard Sabbath before that, but I think when I was younger, I just associated everything that sounded like Ozzy as Ozzy Osbourne. But then I heard Psycho Man, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this?
Yeah.
That's Black Sabbath. Oh, that's those. Wait, that's the guys that do War Pigs and Paranoid, and the guitar player in me just woke up. I'm like, okay, I'm in. Here I am.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first time when it was like, okay, they're going to do a new album. They just did 2 songs. All they got to do is like 10 more or something, and they're good to go. And it didn't happen. But I really loved those 2 tracks they did for Reunion. And then there was another one. They did another new song. It was only played at Ozfest 2001, I believe. Yeah, that was it. At Scary Dreams.
Scary Dreams.
Okay.
Yeah, it only exists now as a bootleg, or you know, you just had to be there. But it was,
you can't pull it up on Spotify or something.
I've never heard it.
Yeah, and it sounds kind of like a song that it could be finished, like, you know, they just put some more work into it, but it has that scary kind of sound that, you know, you described in the first Black Sabbath song. But it was really exciting when they busted out that song live, and it was like, here's just a brand new song. And then nothing came of it afterwards.
Right. Yeah. That's so frustrating as a fan, too, because you're like, you know, I always assume when I'm listening to a band that the band members all get along and that they're friends and that they have no, you know, and I mean, obviously it's not realistic. Not everybody gets along all the time. But, you know, you hear about these lawsuits or whatever, and I always think, well, if I filed a lawsuit against somebody, that means I fucking hate them, right? Like, I'm never, you know what I mean? Like, you've broken, because I mean, at that point, anything could be settled by a phone call, right? You know, before it gets to that point. So you hear, you know, Ozzy and Tony Iommi are having a lawsuit against each other, and there's supposed to be this album, and like, it's all just kind of sitting there, and you're sitting there as a fan just thinking every time you read that news that, oh, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's when
that's
when the politics of money and managers get involved, and it just
I wouldn't know anything about that. Yeah,
makes it messy.
As Mel Brooks once said, it's all about the money.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why we're getting a Spaceball sequel. Woohoo!
Oh yeah, that's
For real?
Are we really?
Yeah, he's got everybody signed up except for Rick Moranis, apparently.
Well, he quit acting, I think. Didn't
Yeah,
he?
I know, but his kids have finally grown up, and apparently he said, "Hey, if somebody actually asks me and offers me the right amount of money, I'll be back because my kids are grown." And that's the reason why. I mean, because I don't know. I know we're kind of getting off topic, but his wife died of cancer. And,
that's right. Yeah, that's
and
really
he's
sad.
like, hey, I'm putting everything on hold. I've made my money. It's not like I have to do this. My kids and my family are more important. I'm going to take care of them. And, if I decide to do it after my kids have grown, then I'll revisit it. And apparently he's getting close to that. And I'm like, holy cow, I will freak out if
that'd be interesting.
he gets, because apparently, even like Daphne Zuniga and
He's back.
yeah, they're all
happy.
there. And I'm like, holy cow, I'll be the first in line. I'll be camping in a tent.
Right.
Wow. Well, thanks for the news flash.
That's cool.
Yeah, well, I could be all the rumor and speculation and
So 13.
Yeah.
Listening to this was just very mind blowing for me because first of all, how creepy it starts out. The first song, I mean, it's slow and like it blew me away because typically when I listen to Sabbath albums, I turn my speakers up a lot louder because I'm used to it having that older recording quality, so you kind of have to turn it up a lot louder to crank it than you would like a modern recording. But this is a modern recording, so when I listened to it, I was blown away by just how heavy it was.
Yeah.
Just blasting in my speakers. And it was creepy too. Like, I mean, just slow and brooding. I mean, literally just like the first song, that they ever recorded. And I knew I was in for something special, Yeah,
I think that's what I like about, especially like with that 13 and with like early Sabbath, is that whole doom aspect. That hauntiness is just something that you don't find in a lot of music. Everybody's so obsessed with, getting everything so clean and so tight, and they forget about the atmosphere of what it is that they're making. And sometimes, those little picadillos in there are what make it great. And I don't know. I love that kind of stuff. That were just a little bit different, and they were a lot different.
Sounds kind of like bluesy and retro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's one song on there I can't remember. I think they actually busted the harmonica out again.
Yes, they did.
Oh, that was the one, Damaged Soul.
Yeah, that was awesome to hear.
The only thing. Did you hear like all the tracks from it too? Because you know how they recorded 16 for it, and then well, actually, funny story is that basically the record company wanted how many did they want? They wanted 13 tracks. I think that's what it was.
Right.
And then they said, oh, well, we're gonna do 10, and they're like, no, you gotta do 13, and then they decide to just call it 13 to piss them off.
That's so funny.
And then that's according to Geezer.
Yeah.
And then they ended up doing 16. So really, the joke was on them afterwards.
Right.
But on the album, like I think the one that was released, it was like 8. But then you can get the iTunes version, which has like 4 extra tracks, and then 3 extra tracks, and then the Best Buy version had 4 extra tracks, and then they had another 4. Because that's 12 there. So then they had the other 4 came out on The End. Which was just like their coda, basically.
Yeah.
Just kind of like finished them out. But you ever hear an album and you hear all the tracks that could have been on it, and you have different opinions of how, if you were the one editing the album, you would have done it differently?
Sure. Yeah. All the time.
Yeah. I actually am. I was just filming. I just finished filming this morning. I was working on a series called Playlist Junkie, and it's basically about I mean, it's as basic as basic can get. It's just me talking to the camera and just listing a playlist of different songs. And sometimes it's something like an album that's, I wish this was arranged differently, or I just have a different idea of how the songs would flow better.
That's cool.
And actually, I didn't end up using the 13 one, but I can tell you it really quick.
Go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, I just find the document. Yeah, here we go. So I think so if these were the 8 tracks I would have picked on the album, and not that doesn't mean I didn't like the other tracks. I just think that this one kind of gives it more of that classic Sabbath album format, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think, so anybody who's listening to this, you can recreate the playlist if you want.
There you go.
So the first one would be the I don't even know how to say it, but Naïveté in Black. It's that funky word, looks like nativity, but it's...
Naïveté in Black, maybe?
Naïveté?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe,
so that'd be the first track. It just starts it off really fast. Kind of reminds you of how, Heaven and Hell, how it begins with Neon Nights.
Yeah, it just blasts out of the gate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then track 2 would be Methademic. Track 3 would be Peace of Mind.
Okay.
And track 4 would be God is Dead. I think once you get to track 4, that's your chance to have like a long, extended kind of track.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, and then number 5, The Loner, which actually follows God is Dead on the album. It actually has a pretty good, good flow there.
Yeah.
6 would be Pariah. 7 would be Age of Reason. And then 8 would be Damaged Soul.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So that would be my track list of 13.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to listen to it in that order and see if I agree or disagree. Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
I won't know until I really hear it flow together, you know?
Yeah. I always like doing that kind of stuff. Like, you listen to an album the way it is, but then afterwards you're kind of like, let me see what it's like if you do it this way. Like, even Metallica, they'll play... I watched them play Ride the Lightning and the Black Album, both, like, in their entirety.
In order, yeah.
They played them backwards.
Oh yeah?
Really?
That's interesting.
Huh.
That actually is amazing. Struggle Within would be your first track.
Struggle Within, yeah. And then you start lightning off with the Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, because at first I'm like, so it'd be interesting to hear Enter Sandman toward the beginning of the set list instead of toward the end. But then they put it backwards, so it's Enter Sandman still came like at the end.
That's awesome.
And then Ride the Lightning, they had no choice but to do Escape, and that was a song that they, for some reason, just never wanted to play live.
Yeah.
And to this day, I think that's still the only time they ever played it live.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't play To Live Is To Die for a long time either.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never seen them play that live.
I think they just did it for the first time at their 30th anniversary.
Oh, cool.
You can find it on YouTube, but it was supposed to be just for the club members.
Huh. Was that like those 3 nights?
Yes.
Yeah. Where they had all like Danzig and Halford and everybody up on stage.
They had Apocalyptica show up and play No Leaf Clover and I Can Die Happy.
That's awesome. Oh, yeah. Fan dream.
I saw Halford sing for Sabbath before.
You saw that?
Yeah.
I was just telling somebody about that the other day. I was like, God, I wish I would have seen that. And, it would have been really interesting to hear it. So
it was disorienting. It was like, because I was so drunk at that concert, I was like,
right, yeah.
Ozzy's lost a lot of hair.
Yeah,
it's a wig the whole time.
Shit, did I walk into the wrong place and I'm actually seeing Judas Priest? It's like, piece it all together.
I am at the wrong show.
Yeah, and there's good recordings of that, so you could see it.
I wonder if he played more Dio stuff though, because it just seems like that would match him better.
He did, but not at that show. It was actually the 3rd time in history where he ever sang for Sabbath. Because the other times was when it was at Ozzy's first farewell concert, I guess. But there were 2 nights where Black Sabbath was going to open for Ozzy, and Dio's contract, I think, expired around that time.
Right.
And he just felt like he didn't have any obligation to sing before Ozzy, whatever. There might have been some ego, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But whatever the case, he dropped out, and they put Halford in there. So it was Halford singing all of like the Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell tracks, Dehumanizer.
Oh, Dehumanizer.
And there is footage. I know somebody recorded on like a real crummy VHS camera at that time. Like it was like 91 or something.
Right.
So you can hear it. It's not good quality, but one of those nights at least is recorded.
Yeah.
So are you a fan of Heaven and Hell, the band? Because I know the album's great, but when Ozzy started coming back, then they kind of split off, and then Black Sabbath with Dio became Heaven and Hell.
Yeah, I think it was a good choice to differentiate the band. Like, even though it was the same exact lineup that recorded Mob Rules and Dehumanizer, it still made sense to not confuse people anymore, just so that they knew, like, okay, this is Heaven and Hell and this is Black Sabbath. And also just the fact that they got a chance to play all of those songs off of those 3 albums live. Because that was another thing. For the longest time, I thought I would never have the chance to see that. And then what do you know? Dio reunites with them again. And that was just amazing.
Yeah, man, I'm really jealous of that.
Yeah.
Honestly. Well, because I came late to the game on a lot of stuff. Because before I really got into metal, I listened to mostly like punk and stuff like that. And so
Whole lot of grunge.
when I got into metal, I really I had to do so much backtracking to figure out.
Did I start you on the Black Album or Ride the Lightning?
I think it was Ride the Lightning. I still to this day am not like the biggest fan of the Black Album, but
yeah, I'm not too big on the Black Album either. I mean, I love them all really, but
sure.
The Black Album I find it to be like the most commercial sounding, because it's all like designed for arena rock venues.
Right.
So a lot of the songs have like that hook, those chants,
right.
to get the crowd going. And I mean, I like the Black Album, but it's usually like the one I find to be, it's played the most. They always do the most songs from it live, and
yeah, just get sick of it. Yeah,
I've had enough, and it'll never go away.
Yeah, I mean, with Black Sabbath especially, I think it was really interesting too. A lot of the sci-fi themes that they had, especially in the early albums. There's a song that really stands out to me on Paranoid called "Planet Caravan."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it's just this really like weird, it's futuristic sci-fi, but like old future sci-fi. If there's a word for that, I apologize. But that idea of like a really grainy, 60s, 70s movie, and their idea of, or probably early 60s movie, their idea of interstellar travel is like, I don't know, like taking flying airships from one planet to another planet or something like that. And that's just the picture that those kind of songs put in my head. And really, as far as metal goes, I don't hear that much. That's one of the unique things about Black Sabbath was that kind of like weird, like pulpy science fiction aspect. I mean, even if you listen to the song Iron Man, you definitely get that vibe of like, he's turned to steel from a magnetic field and like all this just really, really old school
travel and everything.
Yeah, like science fiction stuff. And
I think the song is actually talking about like he goes into the future, witnesses the destruction of humankind. Then he goes back to the present, tries to warn everybody, but something happened to him on the way back, and now he's like unable to communicate or something.
Yeah.
And then like he's neglected, they turn their heads, they don't want to have anything to do with him. So then he ends up destroying the world, and he's the one who actually causes the Armageddon.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just so cool, because I remember reading stories like that, as a kid, like those little tiny, you get those like little tiny paperbacks. Like I remember a lot of the old Lovecraft stories and stuff I rolled in those like little tiny paperbacks with this just crazy artwork, and they probably all have yellow pages now, but they were, but yeah, just that kind of stuff as inspiration, really kind of opened me up to like when I started listening to stuff like Iron Maiden, like in it being all, mostly, fiction based, fantasy and sci-fi based, stuff. And I think a lot of that really originated with Black Sabbath. And, I just feel like everybody always focuses on the horror element, like I did at the beginning. And really that sci-fi element that's there in their music, is really, I think it's really compelling. I think it sets them aside from other, from other bands of their ilk,
Yeah.
Did Geezer
There's
Butler...
so many different themes.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, James.
I
I was going to ask, did Geezer Butler write the lyrics when Dio joined the group? Because I know he wrote primarily when Ozzy was in.
When Dio joined, then Dio started writing the lyrics. Okay. And I think Geezer has said he was kind of relieved about that he finally didn't have to write the lyrics all the time.
I heard the same thing on that one.
Yeah, because a lot of times Ozzy would change him or mess him up or something that would piss him off.
Right.
So
what
he's
was
like,
I
okay,
supposed
fine,
to say there? Yeah.
Just
Dio
buddy.
took a lot more of an active role. He was very much involved in like even like the guitar parts. He would kind of give a lot of input into it.
Right. He was an actual lead singer versus just a guy that showed up and sang. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Ozzy, he was a freak of nature. I mean, he knew how to get a crowd excited. You know,
Yeah. I'm drunk.
definitely
You
had,
guys
like,
are
a
drunk.
natural-
Let's, yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, and I think that's what people love about Ozzy. I mean, we talked about it earlier. I mean, that it's not like he has the best voice, but there's something in there, something that you can hear that just makes him unique, that makes people love him, and makes them want to. I mean, because truthfully, even though I'm the Dio guy, you know, and I love Ronnie James Dio, my favorite album is still, you know, Master of Reality. So I mean, you know, and it's because there's something in his voice that kind of hooks you and grabs you, and you're just like, I gotta have some more. You know, Dio is so technical, but and powerful, but at the end of the day, you almost feel like there's something lacking with his stuff as compared to what Ozzy did in the earlier years. There's just something that just grabs a hold of you, and you know, it's kind of hard to put your finger on it, but you know it's there, and it makes you want to listen to it. And I think that's what, you know, it makes everybody continue to go back to Sabbath, is because of what Ozzy did with his voice, and whatever it is that I can't put my finger on, that just makes people want to go back and listen more. I mean that's what it does to me. I mean, even though
it was very addicting. Like,
it really is
kind of quality.
Absolutely,
and it's a very overwhelming discography, so it's not something that you could just consume all at once.
Yeah, it's insane.
19 albums to date.
I tried
minus the live recordings.
I tried going from start to finish before this episode, and I failed miserably.
It's pretty tough.
oh God, yeah. Because I mean, I try to do that for every episode, and man, I fell flat on my face.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God I've listened to it's not like I listened to it recently, but I've listened to most of everything at some point in time. It's amazing how much they've amassed over time. I mean, granted, it's since 71, 72?
I think late 60s.
Yeah.
Actually.
Late 60s? Holy
Didn't
shit.
the first album get recorded in 1969, I think
Or was it 69?
It's
crap,
It's
dude.
credited to 70
Like
on
at the end of 69, yeah.
That's insane.
What's your favorite way to listen to Sabbath, James? Because I know Dan's a big vinyl fan, and I'm not as big of a vinyl fan as him, but a lot of what I got is CDs and even some cassettes laying around.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, like, if I had the choice, I mean, I have a lot of it on vinyl. I have, like, a lot of them on CD, but I mean, most of my library is all digital now, if that's what you mean. Because, like, the way I'm always making playlists and accessing songs, like, because I'm listening to it, like, when I'm in my car or something, and then it's easy. Like, now everything's on my phone, so I go into the car, like, every song I ever downloaded is on there.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I probably like the sound of vinyl the best. But it's, you know, it comes down to a matter of convenience. I mean, I have my players down in my basement, and the guest bedroom's right above that, and that's where my wife works, and you know, I can't really piss her off when she's on a conference call, you know.
Yeah,
sure you
but
can,
when there is that opportunity, like blasting music in the house on some good speakers, like that's great, but it's just not something that you get that opportunity.
Exactly.
Right. Just wait till she gets on a call and throw some Slayer on there, you know?
What are you doing?
Slayer.
Right? Oh, man.
I did that. Actually, I did that a couple weeks ago with a band I love called Cybreed. And it's actually the new drummer for Megadeth, Dick Verburen, or however you say his last name. He's Belgian. And he's just going psycho on it. And all of a sudden, I just hear this loud thumping on the ceiling, or when my wife's case is the floor, telling me to, you know, shut the fuck up. Because I have some obnoxiously loud speakers, and she is on an important call with clients over in South Korea, and I'm like, oh shit. Hopefully they like metal.
It's my deadbeat husband downstairs listening to his metal records again. Yeah.
I'm not a complete deadbeat, just mostly.
Sorry, buddy. You're good.
All right, good.
Yeah, we're not going to eat up too much more,
right.
too much more of your time,
man.
but I know it's late.
I'll keep going.
Oh, it's all right. Yeah, I'm good right now.
Is there a Sabbath record you don't like?
Is there a Sabbath record I don't like? Let me think about that one. there's no dud to me. Like there's nothing where there's nothing at all agreeable. Like Forbidden is considered to be usually their worst. But even on Forbidden, there's like Get a Grip is a really great song, I think. And I think no matter what song, or like no matter what time period, the one thing that stays consistent is that Tony never runs out of good riffs. Like he's still, after all those decades, he even said himself, he was like, I should just, before I die, just record just a bunch of riffs and then just like give them away or something.
Right.
He is the riff man. Nobody can out-riff him.
Yeah, I mean, there's guitar players that are heavier than Tony Iommi, more technical or whatever. But as far as being able to come up with original ideas that are good on the spot, I mean, there's nothing to compare him to. You know, he's a riff machine.
Yeah, it just seems so effortless. Like it's just the sounds he gets out of the guitar, just like it's so heavy, but it's so casually heavy. It's like hard to explain.
It's not fair.
No, I mean that makes sense. I think it kind of goes back to the whole thing with with Dio and Ozzy. It's kind of like the same thing. You know, he's not like the most 100% technical guy, but there's just something. There's a feel to it, and I think that's what made him so magical. Is because all of them, they together whenever they started out, it was magic. It was just like it was meant to be. And it literally changed the course of, rock music, metal, whole nine yards. I mean, hell, stoner rock came from, Black Sabbath essentially. I mean, Sweet Leaf. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, it's just like,
for sure.
That's where it started. I mean, they started so much, and that's what makes them so amazing. Like everybody that's in rock and metal now can probably. They have to point their fingers to Black Sabbath and say, hey, these guys are what got us going, whether they realize it or not, because they might point to another band, but I guarantee you that the band that they're pointing to, they're the ones pointing to Sabbath.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think they changed music for the better, obviously for us since we love metal, but it's very cool to be able to talk about such an amazing band that literally changes the face of music. You can't say that about everything, because we've talked about other bands and they're awesome and they're a lot of fun and they've done amazing things. But can you say, hey, we changed how people play, we changed what people listen to, and the answer is probably no.
Right.
Yeah, like even Soundgarden, like you could hear like Sabbath influence in like almost every band.
Yeah, absolutely.
In some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just about, actually, now that you say it out loud. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a band I can't hear some Sabbath in, that I listen to on a regular. And it's like, they're not brutal, they don't like, beat you over the head with a tire iron, but they're, like a casual heaviness, that kind of creeps in there and, it feels hard. Like, I think last week I talked about a band that felt like I was pushing a boulder up a hill, but it is like a good horror movie. It is oppressive, it stresses you out just a little bit, like not enough to cause you to go, off the rails, but just something that kind of creeps you out a little bit. And I guess that's what attracts me to the early Sabbath albums the most. The first three, Black Sabbath and Paranoid and Master Reality, is that those are kind of the creepiest Sabbath albums. They deal with lyrical themes that are kind of unsettling, It's weird, too, because everybody talks about the whole, like, religious aspect of it, like the Satan and all that in it. And what I think is funny about those records is that they're not really, like... Well, they're not, like, a satanic band, even though, like, they kind of were portrayed as that for a while. Like
they're actually more like hippies.
Yeah, more and like they're all wearing, and they're like all wearing crosses and shit, and like that's not something that a Satanist is gonna do, like,
or is it?
Yeah,
because so many of their songs are like sort of about like, warning about evil, like kind of just like I mean, sometimes specifically in their lyrics, they'll say like, like love is the answer and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Like, what was it? After Forever, I think, is one of the notable examples of it being like we're saying evil is scary, like,
Yeah.
And I remember reading in an interview a long time ago that somebody gave them those crosses that they wore and all the band pictures and stuff. And somebody asked them, "Why do you guys wear crosses all the time?" And they go, "For protection, man."
Now, is it Geezer that's the practicing Catholic that was putting a lot of that into the lyrics early on some of that stuff? Is that you would probably know better than I would, but
I believe so. That sounds about right.
Okay.
I know that he was the one. He was also like researching a lot of like. I mean, he would get invested in certain topics. Like he would kind of like he would research one thing, and like I've even seen a picture of him wearing like an ankh like around his neck.
Yeah,
like,
I remember that. Yeah,
yeah. I think he's just very interested in like any kind of like mysterious type of topic. And like there was a story about like him getting freaked out one time, like he saw like glowing orb in the room or something. Then he went and started writing a song the next day. So
that was just Ozzy high as a kite.
yeah.
Like I can't remember like the exact details, but I do remember reading a lot of interesting stuff about.
I remember he told the story that when he was living in an apartment and had his walls painted black with upside down crosses and things.
You beat me to that story, Joe.
He woke up and saw the thing at the end of the bed.
Yeah, something was at the end of the bed staring at him or something. That's actually in the on my I got a re-release of the first album on vinyl, and they had this huge write-up of the van, and they told that story exactly. I remember just getting shivers because, of course, I've got the fucking album on playing it while I'm reading this scary-ass story, and I'm like, oh my God. like
it used to unfold into like an inverted cross.
Yeah.
But I've never seen that one, actually. I think that was like one of the original releases.
Yeah.
Because it differs in the UK also. So, like that album's been released so many times that, it's hard to
keep track of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that really freaked me out was the cover of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
Oh, yeah, dude. Like, what the hell's going on there? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's like the 666 up at the top, and it's just like demons. And
and then you turn it on, and Sabracadabra comes on, and it's like, wait, this is like not scary at all.
Well, yeah, what's weird is the music's not nearly as scary as the cover. Like, it's, you're expecting to get like a Master Reality type sound or something out of there, and you pop it on, and you're like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah,
I'm not running for my life yet.
Except for the first song on it, the title track, it like the way the guitar kind of like grumbles, and Ozzy sings so high on it that there's just something like almost like I don't know, just something like really inhuman about it.
Yeah, it sounds a little off. Like it's one of those like you can't put your finger on it, but it's just that something sounds off about it.
Yeah. That's one that he, they stopped playing live. Sometimes they would do like a little instrumental, like a medley. But he did it on the Reunion live album, and then which was from those two Birmingham shows in '97.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't know. Like I think maybe like that song was just too high for him to sing.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me go get this helium.
Yeah, we must have tried. He probably tried it a million times in the studio when they first recorded it, and when you've got unlimited time, and at that point they probably had a really good budget.
Absolutely.
At that point in their career, so I mean, being able to pull something off in the studio is it's like a whole different world because you can try as many times as you want, or you could even, you could even pitch shift it a little bit. Which when I listen to it, I sometimes wonder if it is pitch shifted a little bit to make it sound higher, than maybe it really is. That could be what I'm talking about it sounding off a little bit, but I wasn't there, so I can't verify,
Yeah.
But
sounds like it might have been.
Yeah, it's just one of those weird curiosities. Every time I listen to that record, I'm always like, I wonder if they really did this, or I don't know how good audio mixing technology was back then. If they could pitch shift like that, or what do you like stretch the tape a little bit, or
Yeah, well, at the end of War Pigs, or wait, is it? No, it's Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, wait a minute, is it?
It's Iron
Man.
Man.
It's War Pigs. Yeah. the very end of War Pigs, they do that weird thing where like winds up the speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like wondering, do they do that by hand or something, or like like spin it?
Yeah, I don't
spin
know.
the tape or what?
That's the reel-to-reel running out the end, and it almost snaps.
I feel like a lot of those tricks are probably lost to time too. I mean, like now you go in, and edit it digitally, and you can do anything you want.
Time stretching is real.
Yeah, they probably use stuff like potentiometers on crap like that, so you can just incrementally increase voltage just to speed stuff up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, James, if you're having one of those days, and you just say, I want to go listen to Sabbath, what album do you put on?
Oh, gee. A lot of times if it's really if I haven't heard it in a while, Paranoid or Master Reality, like I usually go to those.
Yeah.
But you know what it usually is? It's usually what's the album that I heard the least recent. Which one is due for another listen?
Right.
And a lot of times it comes down to the Tony Martin ones, because that's when you're going through their whole discography, usually you get to that last.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a consistent singer, though. They had him on there for 5 albums.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of the man. I mean, because did they have him before Dehumanizer?
Yeah.
And then they did Dehumanizer with Dio, and then they went right back to him
exactly.
right afterwards.
In most cases, that would be a little bit, like there's some hard feelings or whatever, but he seemed like, I mean, from what I heard, he was pretty cool with it and was just like, yeah, okay, I'll come back.
Yeah, maybe it was a good paycheck. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you got a good paycheck, it's pretty easy to be a consummate professional, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, but maybe he loved playing with them too. I mean, never know what the behind the scenes story would be.
Yeah, I've been waiting to see some kind of reunion again with him. He's like the last, because in recent years, like we've seen a collaboration with Glenn Hughes. We've seen Ozzy come back. We've seen Dio come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All recorded albums. And then Ian Gillan, even they did that charity benefit for the '88 earthquake in Armenia.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, which had Jason Newsted and Nico McBrain and John Lord. It was like the super group collaboration. But the only singer that really they need to do something with is Tony Martin, and I know they're hanging it up now with Black Sabbath officially. It's
for
done,
now.
but
for now,
but it would be cool to see the two Tonys get back together. And I heard that that's a possibility, that they're on good speaking terms and everything.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell these days because it seems like bands break up all the time, and then like somebody calls somebody or somebody's over for beers and they're like, it'd be a really great fucking idea if we got together and did this huge tour, and so it's always exciting to see that sort of thing go down. I mean, I was surprised even when they had reunited with Dio to do Heaven and Hell. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Is this
so
real?
They did those 3 songs on the Dio Years compilation. At that point, they was actually still called Black Sabbath.
Right.
That was like 2007, I think. And
it
was like, wow, okay, like that was amazing enough. But then they were like, okay, we're going to do a whole album. And at that point, I was like, okay, you're giving me too much. I'm already excited enough that you did 3 songs. I'm fine with that.
Right.
So I didn't have, like, the hype already faded. But when they put out that The Devil You Know album, that blew my mind, because it actually exceeded any expectations I could have had.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's overload. Yeah.
Yeah,
I just saw the other night. I was watching. It's not Headbangers Ball anymore. It's like Metal. Is it like Metal Mayhem? It's on MTV Classic or something, and it's all old videos from Headbangers Ball, but they play some of the newer ones too. And they have the Heaven and Hell Black Bible video, which was really weird.
is it I've heard. There's that really weird, and the band themselves don't like it. Like, nobody liked that video.
Yeah.
I see what they were going with that one. It's the one with like the cutout.
It's real abstract, and like you're like in heaven and then in hell. Okay, I see what they did there, but like he falls down to the ground and like winged demons, and you can actually see Dio, like his outline singing like around the character. and stuff, but the band
Yeah.
themselves never appears in the video.
I think it was a really cool idea. Like I can understand why it didn't come off well at all. I don't think it was like done well, but
Yeah.
I can kind of see what they were going for with it. That it was like this. It kind of reminds me of like the Prince of Ahmed. It was this silent film,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was like the first feature-length animated film.
Okay.
And it was all done with these weird like cutout figures, and I think it was trying to be like that, like a vintage kind of puppet show, like a
Right.
shadow puppet show,
Okay.
and kind of like a creepy kid's storybook or something. But yeah, like the band themselves were like, what the hell was that?
Yeah,
Like
what
they
did
didn't have anything to do with it.
Right. What the hell have you guys done to our song? Yeah. It's-
A lot of bands do that where they just kind of leave the music video part to someone else.
sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
I think I'd be way too OCD to allow that to happen personally.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
freak out.
Well,
Mhm.
and in this day and age, I mean, it's so easy to make content. I mean, you know, yourself, I guess. But some of these older guys are used to, you know, they're used to the kind of the old way of things and making you know, like somebody might show you a concept for a video or something, and they might ask you to show up and, you know, mock play the song for the video. But, you know, in this day and age, it's a lot of the newer bands that come out typically do their own videos. They do their own stuff. The internet's just ridiculous about, you know, if you want to create your own unique concept, whether it be music or not. I mean, you know, I don't have to tell you, but yeah, it's one of those, you know, what the internet can do for people now. I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity there for some of these older bands coming back, and I feel like the trend is more that they're more disappointed with how their stuff is handled when they put it in someone else's hands. But it's like, you think Ronnie James Dio was going to sit down at a Mac and, you know, edit together a video, you know, and be like, this is the you know. So
I want it to be all rainbows.
yeah. So I mean, I didn't like love the video or anything, but at the same time, it's like, oh, you know, you guys kind of got what you got.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was weird for sure.
What would be your final thoughts on Black Sabbath?
Oh, my final thoughts on Black Sabbath is it's just endless. Like it just doesn't. It's like an addiction, and that just keeps on going. But then the thing is, you start finding other bands that sound like Sabbath, and then you start getting into those bands. Like the Sword is. They sound like a modern Sabbath.
Yeah, they're great.
And it just. Yeah, there's something about that I can't explain. That it's addicting. I don't know.
Is it like the Matrix? It's the source. It all starts with Sabbath, so it
it's like
it
it's
never
just,
gets
you
old.
You could tie like so much to Sabbath.
That's what you crave. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like even when like sometimes there's another band that I'm into, and I feel like this band could be my number one favorite actually. But then it's like, wait a minute, well this is they got this from Sabbath. I know they did that, and then it's like, oh, okay, all right, fuck it, it's Sabbath again. It's always Sabbath can't be topped. It doesn't even mean that I listen to them all the time or anything. It's like something that just comes in rotation. Like I'll come back to it every now and then.
Sure.
You always take a break. But every time when I get back into the Sabbath rotation, I'm like, oh yeah, I know why I got into this again.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
I think most people, would definitely say the same thing, that you're always going back to it, but you're branching off from it too, you know?
And then as for album of the week, I mean, I'm not sure if I should go with like a recommendation thing or if it's just like what I'm listening to now.
What you're
whatever
listening
you
to,
want.
what you're enjoying,
It
whatever.
doesn't matter. Nobody's
absolutely.
paying us for this, you know?
No.
So,
Oh, yeah,
it's whatever
I
you
know.
want.
It's a free plug.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause I'm actually I'm like I'm right now I'm like really into Pink Floyd. I mean I've always been, but it's like it came, you know, like I said, you go into phases, you come back to things. So I've been basically like listening to like anything Pink Floyd that I haven't heard. Like I'm trying to like because that's the way it was with Sabbath too. It was like I would come back to him, and then I'd get some more albums, and I'd keep filling it up until I had the whole collection. And once you have the whole collection, then you start listening to like concerts and all kinds of obscure.
Sure.
Like, I want to hear a concert with Ray Gillen singing, or
Right. Yeah.
And I explain that to somebody, and it's like Ian Gillan, Ray Gillen, like it's like so confusing. But where was I going with? Oh yeah, so I've been like listening to a lot of Pink Floyd stuff, like the live at Pompeii performance I heard a long time ago on a VHS tape, but now like they actually released Pink Floyd just put out like a bunch of obscure stuff on like it comes with CDs and Blu-rays and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the Blu-ray, they did this amazing 5.1 mix of live at Pompeii, and it sounds amazing if you listen to it on surround sound.
Yeah,
especially echoes. When you hear that performance, it's just amazing how you could hear every instrument sort of like isolated, but all just surrounding you like you're there.
Sure.
So they do that. Is that DTS audio that they used for the 5.1? Do you know?
I guess. I mean,
yeah, I have a handful of stuff that's remastered or recorded in DTS audio, and I'm normally a big stereo guy, but holy shit! I mean, it's like you're like sitting on the middle of the stage.
Yeah,
and it's really cool. I mean, because how they make all that work. So whenever you get it done correctly, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's better than. Just like, a surround sound with a movie. I think a surround sound when done correctly with music is really cool. And I'm going to have to check that out because I love that kind of stuff.
Oh, cool. Where do you, is it at all common when they release stuff like that? Because I haven't heard it that often.
No, it's not. And it's really flippin' expensive when you do find it. But you can find it, at most of the music stores, whether, it's new or, secondhand.
Okay.
There's a crap. What's that place
CD?
in South?
Like, is it usually on a CD format?
It's DVD. It's DVD format.
Yeah.
So it's DVD. It's like a DVD audio, but there's actually stuff that's actually recorded in DTS audio, which is a type of format. Instead of Dolby Digital, it's DTS.
Interesting.
And the difference between Dolby Digital and DTS, to my acknowledge, from what I understand, is that DTS is more pronounced per channel, and that's why it works well with music, as compared to. I mean, because sometimes with movies, it's it's that whole special effects things that go so far over the top that it kind of kills it. At least it does for me. But it seems to work really well with music. And there's a couple of things out. There's a. What's that place in South County that's in the mall that nobody goes to?
I don't know. I don't go there.
Oh, V-Stock. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, V-Stock. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
If nobody goes there, then how am I supposed to know what it is?
I don't know.
Vintage stock. Yeah.
Yeah, vintage stock. But there's places that, like the vintage stock actually has a dedicated location for the digital audio surround sound stuff specifically for music. And so if you have, I'm not exactly sure where you're located at, but you're going to have places like that pretty much anywhere. So if you have it used to be even like Barnes and Noble used to have stuff like that even. I don't know.
Oh, wow. I mean, can you get it online?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Go to Amazon.
Okay.
You can find it no problem. But as far as like physically going into sometimes I like to go into stores just because I still have that. I'm almost 40, so I kind of still have that, mall feel, from when I was a teenager. So I still have that twinging to want to go back for the music side of things.
Yep,
I don't
go back and pay more. Yep, I get it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you do with that audio, it's like $40 for some of that stuff.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's insane. But if you find something and it's somebody you really love and it, it's done well, it's worth every frickin' penny.
Cool. I wonder what bands, like how many bands have done it.
Most of your big arena rock bands, anybody who's played like large arenas. I know this is a metal podcast, and I'm not supposed to admit it, but I fucking love Fleetwood Mac. Lindsey Buckingham is amazing.
We're cool.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. So yeah,
you guys might be cool.
So I mean, yeah. So they actually have some stuff that's in DTS audio, and it's unbelievable. But yeah, I'm sure that Pink Floyd, and I bet you even Black Sabbath has something
cool.
like that too. I would put money on that. You know, they're a big enough band that they got to have something like that.
Okay.
Cool,
Yeah, because I
that's
know
awesome.
I must have got turned off to it at one point because they put out the Paranoid special edition, and it, it had lots of cool stuff. Like I was telling you, the alternate tracks and everything. But they had like a I'm gonna say it was like some kind of surround sound version of the Paranoid album. And I remember trying to listen to it, and it was horrible. Like it just did not work whatsoever.
Right.
I was like, okay, I'm sticking a stereo from now on.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of it depends on how it's mixed. And actually, when in the time frame it came out with DTS, because some of the early stuff, truthfully, I mean, it's rough. I mean, it's the same thing like whenever you watch 3D movies. Some of its stuff is just so far over the top that it's distracting. So it might have been something like that where it was just, I mean, you want it to be pronounced, but you don't want it to be so far over the top that you're like, that's a left speaker, so I know that's every time that a guitar plays, that's the only place it's coming from. And some of the early stuff was like that, but it's just like when anything with technology, as time goes on, it gets better. It's just that it never really caught on in mass media, just because it costs so much to do. So, but I think Joe was just looking it up trying to find it. But
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Now I'm really hopeful, especially like after I heard that Pink Floyd one, I was just like, wow, why does this sound so good? So I'll look for what other artists have that, and
there's some really cool stuff that you can find.
Yeah, it sounds like I might have a new addiction.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Way to go, Jeff.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Well, James, man, I really appreciate you taking the time out, because I mean, I know you're busy and it's nearly impossible to work out a schedule for anything anymore. At least it is for me. It seems like every time I got something going on, something comes up.
Yeah, I flew down here at like 85 miles an hour to make it in time from my kiddo's graduation. So I totally get it as well. So we thoroughly appreciate it. We are very humbled by your presence. It's very awesome.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Maybe another time, sometime when everybody's schedule clears up again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be cool, man. Like one of the things we tell anybody that's on our show is the door's always open. So 6 months from now we're talking about Rob Zombie. You'll probably be getting an email from us.
Sex and
just one of those.
I love that album.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's just it's a lot of fun, and our podcast is a little different in that we just kind of talk. And I know that's like a lot of people, but I think it's different as far as metal goes, because there's a whole lot of bravado, tough guy. Like if you listen to a lot of metal podcasts, you hear a lot of and this week we're talking about such and such band. It's just so overly masculine and weird and over the top. So ours, it's just we always just wanted to be dudes in a room talking, and hopefully people like that. And awesome. Well, you get yourself some sleep, and we will be anxiously awaiting another video.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Gives me something to do during the day. I get lots of stretches of work time where, I work in a dialysis clinic, so there's a lot of testing and weird stuff I have to do. So it's go drop this into a bucket of water and then sit for 2 hours and wait,
Oh, okay.
So always plenty of time for me to catch up on.
Man, I want your job,
cool.
man. I'm nonstop. All I do is just talk to engineers and tell them what they did wrong on their drawings all day long.
More power to you.
Yeah, it's empowering.
Engineers are the worst sometimes.
Yeah, and
I'm the reason all of your internet works.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, James, thanks so much, man.
Thank you, James.
Absolutely, man.
We'll hit you up. We'll hit you up later this week.
Okay.
On the Twitter and all that good stuff. So.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the Sabbath knowledge, man. You know some crazy stuff that none of us knew, so that's very cool. We love finding out new things. That's always part of the fun of this.
Did you know that at concerts there is actually, or at least at some time, there was a guy with a bucket who stands off stage in case Ozzy has to take a piss or a shit.
Oh my God. And that's going on right at the end.
It's in one of the, I wish I could remember the documentary I saw it on.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. That is so awesome.
I wish I could remember what it was, but this guy actually, he gives the interview and he's like, He's like, yep, it's happened before.
All right, this next song's called. Yeah. Oh my God!
So next time when Tony's doing the solo and Ozzy's like off the stage, now you'll never think of it.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah, he's just shitting. Don't worry about it. He's just shitting off the stage. Wow, that's the kind of thing you'd see at a Gore concert.
Or is it corn cobbit or?
Oh man. Well, on that note.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it.
All right,
So,
take it easy.
have a good night. Yeah, see ya.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
All
All right, bye-bye.
Later.
That one's pretty good.
That whole thing about the shit.
And a very special thank you goes out to James Rolfe. James, thanks for hanging out with us. We had a blast. We hope you had fun as well, and we will see you in the future. If you don't know, you can find everything James does at cinemassacre.com. Again, this has been episode 14 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit Discuss Metal for all things discography discussion, and please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com.